Change your brain, change your life. Welcome to the Ketamine Coaching Academy podcast. Join me, Bronwyn Davis, 25 years as a success coach for high performers and the visionary leader behind Conscious Ketamine Coaching Academy, as I guide you through this groundbreaking approach to healing, personal development, and empowerment. Come for the education, stay for the enlightenment, and leave ready to transform. Hello and welcome to the Ketamine Coaching Academy. We're so excited by this guest today, Janice McInnes. I met Janice when she was doing some wanting to learn more about what was going on with ketamine coaching. And I know she was there for support and everything else. So it just was wonderful to meet her and to bring her into the podcast. So I'm excited that you're here, Janice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Bronwyn. It was a pleasure to meet you and hear about what you're doing in the ketamine space. And yeah, it's wonderful to be here and continue with the conversation we started back then.
Yeah, we had such a great conversation afterwards. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I need to have you on the podcast because it was so much fun.
Well, I'm so delighted to be here. I'm glad you invited me.
Thank you. One of the things that just really stands out is you have a huge heart. You have a big heart. You want to serve. And there's one specific community you love to serve most, and that is first responders. Tell me a little bit about why that is such a special group for you, and what is it that you get from working with that group?
Yeah, when I first started working with ketamine clients, I was invited to work with a group of first responders, mostly firefighters, some veterans as well. And it was interesting, my team that I was working with at the time, I hadn't fully identified with my role as the daughter of a first responder. So it was actually through my work in this field and with ketamine that I really started to identify with this demographic. Oh my gosh, and through my clients as well. So that has really been dear to my heart. My dad was RCMP auxiliary. He was a dispatcher. He was the president of our local search and rescue chapter. And, like all the normal things that I grew up with, I didn't realize were specific to being a first responder household. Like we had always the police scanner was on, like my dad's chair in the living room had the police scanner on the coffee table. It was on 24/7. So if he was not at work, he was listening to it. If he was at work, we were listening to him. So when I started work, but so the sad part about that experience is that he actually passed away when I was 25. So gosh, 30 years ago now, and from alcoholism. So when I started working with first responders, I really identified with them. I work with people really in my age group. Most of the people that I work with are in big life transitions. They're professionals, they're going through career transitions or life transitions, but something big is happening, like that midlife transition. And so working with these first responders, a lot of them also had adult children, and sometimes they were estranged. They didn't have good relationships with them. So they really identified with me as the daughter of a first responder, and a lot of the veterans as well. So that really gave us a connection. And for me, being that I lost my dad at a young age, being able to serve this community and help them move through all the things that my dad wasn't able to, is why it's so dear to my heart.
It's hard. I know just from my own personal experience with first responders and trying to work with them, they don't give it up easily. It's like it's hard to really get them to open up, get them to even admit that there's a problem or that there's anything that they need. How do you personally work with that and get them to a place where they feel comfortable?
Yeah, I start with sharing my story. I let them know what my experience was like. I mean, my upbringing is familiar to them. I mean, like just something like, having the police scanner on in the house all the time. I mean, like growing up, I didn't know that every household didn't have a police scanner, but like everything about my life was police and fire department and search and rescue. So that was just, I get it. I get what that lifestyle is. I understand. Plus, like I saw, um, as an adult and through this work that I've done, my own ketamine treatments and my own, personal process. Um, as an adult, I can look back and see all of the ways that my dad struggled. And so I just share what my reflections are from observing, as an adult, what my childhood was like and see where the disconnect with my dad was. I could see how, he and understanding now and doing the training that I've done in this field, I could see that where he would come home from work and wouldn't be able to just turn off work, So that moving into um, working with first responders, it's not a voluntary thing. Like it's a body thing, and it's not a failure, and it's um, not being able to manage the stress is not a weakness. It's just a fact of the way that the job is. I mean, there's only so much the body and the mind can take, and the body stores everything up. And so when working with people, I let them know that, like, this isn't anything that you did. This isn't anything that you could do. This is an accumulation that is happening within you. And I mean, gosh, that's where I've seen ketamine shine.
Yeah, it is. It's such a beautiful, beautiful tool, a beautiful heart opener. And
Hmm.
so, do you ever get to a point in working with someone where they do just close up, like it's just too hard for them to open up?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's totally fine. That's perfectly okay. And I tell them that like right from the get-go. They're going to share with me what they feel comfortable sharing with me. Anything that they're not comfortable sharing, that's okay. They don't have to share that. And a lot of times when people come to me in the preparation sessions, they're worried that they're going to say something or they're going to do something when they're in the ketamine that is going to be embarrassing. They don't want to surrender, like we do a lot of talk about, surrender to the medicine. I mean, forget it. If you're a first responder, the last thing that you're trained to do or that you're even able to do is to not be on guard. And so we work a lot with that, like that's okay. You don't need to totally surrender, but we work on allowing. So what if you allow the medicine to guide you to a place that would be healing? You don't have to totally surrender. So you're giving yourself completely up to something that you're going to have no control. What about allowing it to guide you someplace for some healing?
That's the perfect reframe on that, because it really is leading them more toward healing. And the more they try, or any of our clients, to push it down and push it down, the really the sicker we become, whether it's
Mhm.
mentally sicker, physically sicker, because we've taken all
Yeah.
of it and just stuffed it down.
Yeah. Yeah. And the body's the hard drive. It's storing everything, and there's only so much it can store up. And the nervous system, there's only so much that it can take as far as being able to respond as well, like the hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Um,
You
you know,
shared about your experience, your personal experience with ketamine. Share with us a little bit more about your personal stories. When did you seek out therapeutic ketamine treatment, and what prompted that for you? If you're open to
mhm.
sharing that with us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to be quite honest, it was the invitation to work with ketamine clients, and I had never experienced ketamine myself. I've worked with other psychedelics, but not with ketamine. So that was, although it wasn't required, it was something that I wanted to experience because I don't want to work with somebody if I have no idea what they're going to experience. So that was, like the first part of it. And then as I was learning about ketamine and through my training, I was really curious about, some of my own stuff and how it might be able to help me with moving forward, like in areas of my life that I was feeling stuck, like trying to just reprogramming, like the belief systems, the programs that, and any, like I had trauma too, like I had gosh, I mean, I grew up with an alcoholic father who was a first responder, so I never knew which way was up, like I never knew what I was getting with him, so I learned to be hyper vigilant. There's that um the trauma that comes from, being in somebody's life who's dealing with trauma. um, so I wanted to seek out ketamine for some of that to help me with moving past some of my childhood traumas. And my experience with ketamine, gosh, um, for people who are my age, they'll understand this, but I tell them it's like, like the old computers that had the DOS programming that ran on DOS programming, and we'd have to go in and manually defrag the computers, and you could see it would pull up on the screen where it would have these lines of these colored squares, and there'd be big gaps between them. And as the defrag was happening, it would go line by line and eliminate the gaps and tighten everything up. And that was just clearing out all the dead space, and just leaving room for the programming that you need. And so for me, that was what ketamine was like. That's a ketamine experience for me. So going for a ketamine experience now, I know it's like, okay, well, I've got a bunch of gunk I need to clear out, and I need to come back to that core programming, that core essence of who I am. And so that was my experience with it. And those are my intentions when I go in.
Do you feel that as a psychedelic integration coach that it is important for you to be doing your own work and really
Mhm.
continuing your journey with therapeutic ketamine?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you can do this kind of work without doing your own work. And that never ends. Like that is a lifelong journey. Um, it's not an easy journey. Sometimes it's better than others, but it is a lifelong journey and a commitment. And honestly, my belief is that, psychedelic work is so unique. I can't imagine working with people not knowing what they're experiencing. So I feel that it is important for anybody who is working with clients in this field, know what the landscape is.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. There's no way I could be doing the work that I am doing as a conscious ketamine coach if I didn't, first off, know the medicine inside and out
Hmm.
and really have my own personal stories around it.
Hmm.
You can't. Plus, having
Yeah.
my own coach, like
Yes,
I've been a
absolutely.
coach.
Yeah.
I've been a coach for 25 years, so I couldn't imagine me being the coach that I am today without having my own coaches as well.
Yes, agreed. Yes, and myself included. Yeah.
You
Mhm.
also work with those, like you said, who are in transition. They're moving from one part of their life to another. What do you love most about working with them as well?
Mhm. I love being with them through the transition. I love working with someone who comes in and they're in a stuck place. They're in the muck. Like they're in that midlife transition. They've had their career, they've had their families, like they're at a place where they're not sure what's coming next. Do they want to retire? A lot of people that I work with have been trying to retire and haven't been able to get away from their careers. They haven't been able to take that final step to actually step away from their work. They keep getting pulled back in. Every time they step into retirement, they've got a plan, they've got a date set, something happens and they get pulled back in. And it's usually money, like one more contract. Oh, well, if I just wait until that date, if I just stay one more year, then I'll be this much farther ahead. And it never ends. And so when I meet with people, that's usually where they're at, is they're trying to get away from something that they know is not serving them, but they don't know what's next and they don't know how to make that transition.
Can you give us an example of just one or two of your clients who personally have, started here not knowing and then made it out to the other side, and share a little bit about how they're thriving now?
Yeah, for sure. Um, Gosh, I think of one in particular who, yeah, she was trying to retire. Life was good. She's made a ton of money. Family's good. Like everything was good. She just could not get away from work. She had things that she enjoyed, but she could not get away from work. So she came to the medicine to look for, like how to find her path out. And through the work with the medicine, she uncovered some personal traumas, some childhood traumas, some relationships that were broken that she didn't know, were struggling, but she didn't really realize like where the breaks had happened and how damaged those relationships were. She reconnected with things that she had forgotten that she really enjoyed. And not this client, but another one I can remember. When we were on a integration call. So she was doing a six series treatment, and this was probably about call 3 or 4 after she'd had 3 or 4 treatments. She said, Janice, I was on the phone with my team who usually drag me down, and I found myself in my living room. She's working from home, and she's on a conference call, and she's dancing in her living room. There's a song on the radio in the background. She's like, Janice, I haven't danced in years. I used to love dancing.
Oh,
And so it's back to this client, it's things like that that started to resurface. Even though her life was great, she just couldn't get away from work. It was, there was all these things that there was unprocessed trauma, things that she had forgotten about that she loved, that she had lost touch with. And then, so we worked together for a year and a half after that initial treatment. And she's fully retired now. She's been retired now for over a year, almost 2 years actually. And she can't believe the life that she's living. She can't believe that she was able to. So we took a year. She completely walked away from work. Her life now, she's connected with nature. She's connected with her grandkids. She's connected in ways that she could never have imagined. Spiritually, she grew up Catholic, was disconnected from her religion, wasn't practicing. She has reestablished her connection to her faith, and she just has a deep connection to herself and to God. Mm-hmm.
and it's so cool to see and to hear those stories, because that's what you and I both, we hear those stories and actually witness those stories in what we
Mm-hmm.
do every day. Like, that's not the outlier. This is what is
Yeah,
happening all the
this is
time.
this is this is every day, all day long. This is
Yeah.
what's happening in people's lives. Yeah, that's why I just love this work so much, and I love what's happening in the psychedelic world. And ketamine is the front runner.
Janice, I love this conversation. We're going to take a moment and take a break. And when we come back, I want to hear more about your clients, and we're going to do a deeper dive into more about what you offer. This podcast is sponsored by Conscious Ketamine Coaching Academy. Step into the future of mental wellness. I'm Bronwyn Davis, founder of Conscious Ketamine Coaching Academy. This isn't just a career, it's a calling to guide deep, meaningful change. By integrating transformative coaching with therapeutic ketamine, a cutting edge healing tool, we empower our clients to heal and grow beyond their expectations. Ready to make an impact? Click below to learn more. Welcome back. I'm Bronwyn Davis, your host for the Ketamine Coaching Academy. I'm here with Janice McInnes, psychedelic integration coach, and we are having such a great conversation here today. Janice is truly on the front lines of working with clients with integration coaching, making sure that everything they learned during their ketamine experience is being utilized out in everyday life. And one of those areas that it's important to bring up is the preparation. So, Janice, I'd love to hear your approach. First off, why do you feel preparation is so important? And what are your goals during that preparation session with your client?
Preparation is so important. Um, so a lot of times people have had no experience with any kind of psychedelics. The ketamine experience is different, even if they have had experience with psychedelics. It is so unique, being that it's a dissociative. So being able to work with people with intention setting, which is, pretty common, people have heard about that, but also giving them an idea as to just what the experience might be like for them. So we work through the intention setting and we really hone in on what their intentions are. So a lot of times people are, I don't really know. I'm really unhappy and I want to be happy. So we really kind of get into some more specifics around that. And we talk about intentions versus expectations. So, setting an intention and then having the medicine give you some information, coming out with, even if you don't get it and a lot of times people don't get their information in the session itself, the information comes afterwards. So we talk a lot about that too. And the expectations of, I have this question I want answered, the medicine's going to answer it for me, and when I come out I'm going to have the answers. So we talk a lot about intentions and expectations. I talk about what kind of experience they might have. I sort of go through 4 kind of different scenarios, because there's different kind of experiences people can have. There's an empathogenic experience, out of body experience, a near death experience, a complete ego dissolving transcendental experience. So I go into kind of what each of those is like. Because we don't know what kind of experience they're going to have. We don't know if they're going to get blasted out into the universe and be in that K-hole that everybody's heard about, or if they're going to feel like nothing happened and they just had a good nap, like anything in between. So I take them through just really looking at what it can be like. A lot of people go in looking for the ego death, not really knowing what that is, or being disappointed if they don't get the ego death. So we talk about that.
If you could share with us how you would describe each one of those to your clients, like how do you describe an ego death to them? Or
Yeah.
how would you describe the K hole? Or how would you describe any of these other areas that you were talking about? I'd really love to hear kind of how you talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when we talk about that ego death, it's like um, I tell people it's like a complete separation from your body. That's the, kind of traveling to those mythical realms. It can be like um, it's a complete dissolving of the body. So it's sort of like that, um, like I had an experience flying through space, like that ego dissolving. It's that transcendental, we are all one. I am at one with the universe. I am at one with everything, which also can be the K-hole, like if you go blasting out into nothingness and you're in that darkness, you're in that blackness, that can also be kind of scary. But I tell people like that, and that can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it's a feeling of, you no longer exist as to who you are. You no longer have an identity of, I don't have an identity of Janice. I am not me. I am no longer in existence. I'm out in the nothingness of everything and of nothing. And that can be scary, but it's also exciting. So I talk to people about like that can happen. Um, and then you come back to that. I talk to people about the near death experience. That can be like other near death experiences where people have said, like my whole life flashed before my eyes. And so that can happen. Or having visuals or visions of, like past lives or future lives. So leaving this life but seeing other lives. The out of body experience is a definite, you still have some sort of idea that you have a body somewhere. So it's not the complete ego death where you're all part of the universe, but you know that you still have an identity, but you're not in it. So you're not in that body. Sometimes it can feel a little bit like falling. Sometimes it can feel like just a it's like you can see your body floating above your body. Sometimes people, like they might not even realize they're out of their body, but they afterwards they're like, yeah, I saw my body. I was on the couch and my body was on the mat on the floor. And or sometimes it's that empathogenic experience is that euphoria, that warmth, that love, the peace, the connection with the body. So those are kind of the four different sort of states that I try and help people kind of walk through. And then we see after that first session what their experience was, and then we work from there. We also go through a couple of just practical exercises, like I tell people, have the palm of your hand on your belly and just keep it there, and just breathe. If at any time in your experience you're struggling, you're having an out of body experience, you don't know where your body is, just if you can, just remember to breathe. Just take a deep breath. And what happens then is your hand is on your belly and your nervous system signals to your brain that your body's okay. Sometimes it can feel like you're out in this weird place, having this bizarre dream, seeing these weird things, and you're not quite sure where you left your body. And so by doing that, taking in a breath with your hand on your belly, your body gets that signal, and then it's calming for your mind. You can carry on in the experience.
Do you ever find that when you're explaining this to your clients, the four different ways it could go, that they actually do they get scared? Do they get more interested? Do they get like, what are you finding as you share with them what could happen?
Yeah, both. They do get scared and they get interested. And so depending on how they're feeling, what comes up for them, that's where we go next. That's where we dive into next. That's where the practical stuff comes in. That's where they really want the ego death. They really want that transcendental experience of, like of being out in the universe and one with all. And, so then we work on, okay, well, what if that doesn't happen? What if you never leave the room? What if you're fully conscious what if you're listening to all the machines beeping? What if you're listening to the receptionist? Like that could happen. But know that the ketamine is still working. And whatever happens in that small little window of the medicine experience is just an opening. All the work is getting ready to go in, like getting ready, keeping the body clean. We talk a little bit about what they're watching, keeping the mind clean, hydrating, keeping, like trying as much as they can, trying to eat well, and not being on screens, that sort of thing. So preparing the body to go in, and then afterwards working with what the experience was, knowing that everything that's happening in their brain from the ketamine is still happening, whatever their experience. So the big part of the experience is through the integration.
I like to describe it as the ketamine experience itself is only 10% of the experience. The rest, the integration, is 90% of the experience.
Yes. It's just that little door opening, it's just the catalyst for everything that's about to happen. It just opens the door. And then that integration is, you're walking through the door. Now you're in a new land.
How do you share with clients about neuroplasticity? How do you talk to them about it so that they understand that the brain is rewiring itself?
Yeah. So I get a little bit into the science. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do get a little bit into the science of what is happening in the brain with ketamine, and that the glutamate is not as active. It's those channels are being closed. So ketamine interrupts that glutamate, which interrupts the pain receptors, and pain being physical pain, pain being emotional pain. and that it also increases something that's called BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like fertilizer for the brain, as well as it also creates a dysregulation in the default mode network. So that's the part of us that is related to everything that we believe about ourselves. It's our identity, it's, you know, our personality, it's all that we've been taught and that we believe, everything about us. The ketamine interrupts that. So what happens is that so that's how I get into it. I talk to them a little bit about, you know, you've got this fertilizer in your brain, you've got some of those old pathways that are blocked, that opens up new pathways, and pathways that you haven't traveled down for a long time. So that's, you know, like the lady who was dancing, you know, on her conference call. It's like that pathway reopened. She remembered, you know, because she had access to that pathway. So ketamine blocked those pathways that she's been traveling down, the anxiety pathways, the depression pathways, the negative thought loops. It interrupts that. And then she's got these other pathways that she has access to.
You look at integration as a core ad.
Right.
Share with us what that means to you as opposed to just a value add. It's a core ad. It's very, very important.
Yeah. Honestly, probably one of the best things that I can share about that is a statistic that was shared with me from one of the doctors at one of the clinics that I worked with. He had been at a conference with the American Society for Ketamine Physicians and Psychotherapists and Practitioners. And what they had observed was that the effectiveness of ketamine treatment without coaching, they saw a 50% reduction in depression and a 30% reduction in anxiety. But when you added the coaching with that, they saw an 80 to 100% reduction in those symptoms when you added the coaching in. So just that statistic itself explains, you know, why you would want to have some extra support around an experience beyond, you know, like your interaction with your clinician. So for me, that's, and you know, we talk about the future of ketamine, and that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm excited for, is that more and more, and I've seen it, more and more clinics and more providers are like you said, you know, like the integration is 90%. So that's starting to show up more and more, and that's where my passion is that the coaching is value added to, it's a core value of these programs. Like, it's not an option, it's not an add-on, it's something that is part of your whole treatment.
How do you get people to understand that? Because in our culture right now and in society, we focus so much on the ketamine itself because that's
Mm-hmm.
the unique thing that's kind of happening. So people put a lot of emphasis on the ketamine itself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how do you go about, you know, sharing your thoughts about the integration when they can't even get beyond just the fact of doing ketamine, you know? Like,
Right. Yeah.
how do you explain that to them?
Yeah. Well, to be quite honest, I let people do it for me. You know, I let the people who have experienced, I let my clients do it for me. They're doing it all over the place. You know, like, I've worked with so many people. I mean, gosh, I've worked with dozens of clinics and hundreds of clients, and they talk to each other. You know, like the first responders are talking to the other first responders. You know, like people are talking to their family members. Somebody knows a family member who has had ketamine treatment and ask them about it. Or I've had so many times that I have had people that have come to me who have said, well, my brother-in-law did a ketamine treatment and had you as a coach. I did ketamine treatment too. I'm in a different state. Coaching wasn't even talked about. It wasn't an option. Like, I didn't know anything about coaching. And now I'm feeling really ripped off. I'm feeling like the clinic ripped me off because I'm right back to where I was. You know, like, there's this little window, you know, like after the ketamine treatment, there's that 30 days where you've got access to that neuroplasticity to really make some changes. And if you're not making those changes and you don't have help to make those changes, then everything just goes back So eventually you can just go back to the way things were. And then sign up for another ketamine treatment. So like, to be quite honest, I can talk about it as much as I want, but I'm the coach, it sounds like a sales pitch coming from me. So I let my clients, they're the ones talking to each other, and the clinics are responding. The providers are responding, because if somebody is out there and they're doing their research and they are looking for a clinic to go to, I tell people, and I mean, people reach out to me, and I don't wind up being their coach, but I just do discovery calls with them, and they're wanting to know what to look for. And I tell them, look for programs that have coaching built in. Look for programs that are going to support you, not just through your treatment, but after your treatment, and it's included. And so that's, providers don't really have much choice. This is what people are asking for. And if they don't offer it, then those people are going to go to a different place.
Share with us your package. I know you have unique ketamine coaching packages. So I want you to share with us what all is included when someone comes to you and they want to work with you. What do you
Mhm.
include, and how do you structure your packages?
Yeah. So I have developed the package to work with. Most of the clinics that I work with, they're doing a 6 treatment plan. So somebody signs up with them and they have 6 either infusions, ketamine infusions, or intramuscular injections. And they'll usually do those over 3 or 4 weeks. So I've designed my package so that we have an hour for preparation. And then we do a half an hour after that first session. So after they've been for their first ketamine treatment, we have a half an hour, which is an integration, but also preparation for their next treatment. So we find out, okay, how did you respond to the medicine? What happened? What came up for you? How are you feeling now? So we do that integration, and then we do that again after their second treatment. So we have the preparation, get them ready, and that's a full hour before their first call, before their first treatment. We do a 30-minute integration. They have their second treatment. We do another 30-minute integration, and then they go for their third and fourth infusions or injections. And then we have another 30-minute call. And then they go for the fifth and sixth, and then we have a final call. And usually at that point, and so what that does is they're in the medicine, they're in this treatment. My job is to take notes, to identify the insights that are coming up, to make notes of, because there is a theme that starts to form over that 6 treatments. And it reflects how they're living their lives. So I'm documenting all of those things that they can't see because they're in it. And then when we get to the end of it, they've got all these insights. And then usually we'll carry on and work for another 3 to 6 months after that. So that, because there's so much to integrate, there's so much to work with, there's so many things to put into practical use that they haven't yet had the chance to. So that's the package that I start out with.
Hmm. That's beautiful. So the one that's the 30 days, including the preparation, that's one package. And then if they decide they want to continue for another 3 to 6 months, that's a separate offering. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And that may or may not be with ketamine.
Right. It usually is like, that's after the medicine. So that's just the coaching. But what we're doing is we're using everything that came from their ketamine treatment. We're building on that. So that's where we're, really building on those new neural pathways, because those are just like, they're like thin little spider webs, that are just these new pathways. They need to be strong. They need to strengthen. They need to deepen. They need to expand. And so that's where the coaching comes in, to just really build on what they already have established.
Very good. I know you and I are both just super excited about the future of therapeutic ketamine and what it all has to offer. Share with us your perspective. What do you see over these next 3 to 5 years, and what do you hope for in the ketamine future?
Mhm. I am excited to see it reach into more communities that are suffering. So, I mean, I've seen how much of a difference that it makes in the first responders world, in the veterans world. So I hope to see that becoming more common, but also youth at risk. You know, anybody, on the medical side of it, people who are suffering from depression and anxiety, I would really very much like to see it have a bigger role in that world. That's already where it's shining. But beyond that, also just for leveling up, like ketamine, like I was saying earlier, it's a defrag, like I come out of a ketamine session and I feel like I have a new brain. I can think clearly, I have more focus. It helps me, like the ketamine just helps to work through all those layers of things that have built up that aren't me. And it helps me to get back to me. So I really hope that ketamine has a place for people that are just like for maintenance.
Do you see, since you've been working with therapeutic ketamine, are you starting to see more acceptance of the medicine? I know for me personally, 4 years ago to talk about it, people would look at me like I had three heads,
Yeah.
But now it just feels like more and more as I go into various rooms, whether it's networking or just being in social situations, that more and more people have heard about it, and it's a little bit more accepted. What have you noticed?
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. And again, like to go back to the first responders demographic, it's with the firefighters that I've seen that the most, because they are not a demographic that's known for reaching out for help. And so, but it's being talked about in fire stations all across the country, yours and mine, where it's more accessible and legal in the US than it is in Canada. I'm in Canada, but yeah, like you can say ketamine and people know what you're talking about. And
Yes.
somebody will share a story as to how it was effective for them and how much it helped them. Because anybody who's had ketamine therapy and has had it change their lives wants to tell the world.
This has been such a great interview. Thank you so much, Janice. I want to share with us, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, thank you. This has been wonderful. It's gone by so fast. Yeah, so people can reach me through my website, janicemckinnes.com. I've got an info page there on ketamine, so people can just go and learn about it. The ketamine package we just talked about is also there. I have a prep packet that people can download for free that just covers it's got some great preparation ideas and prompts for journaling, and it's got integration exercises. It's also got questions in there as to what to ask your provider. People can also reach out to me through my email. It's connect@janicemckinnes.com. On my website, there's an email list to sign up for. I send out a newsletter, bunch of random stuff that comes out just once a month. Don't send out a lot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not really big on social media and never was. Don't really need to be now. I know when I have posted some things, they've been blocked. So it's kind of hard to talk about psychedelics anyway on social media. But my website and my email is the best way to reach me.
Janice, thank you again so much for being our guest today. This has been an awesome interview, and I just really appreciate your perspective so much. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been wonderful to be here. And yeah, I've really enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you. And it's been wonderful to spend some time with you here today.